You're listening to the hottest internet radio station. In the mix. In the mix.
Okay. We on? Got you. Hey. Peace and elevation. It's your brother Mike X. Welcome to the Wake Up Project with brother Mike X. Tonight we have a powerful show. I hope that and pray that you will be blessed with a challenge of encouragement, of support in getting into the process of fighting for your personal freedom. You know, this show is not about complaining, whining, griping. This show is about us taking ownership of our lives to begin to participate in the process of healing from racism, from self-hatred, from fear and doubt, all of the many things that keep us stuck a lot of times in relationships, in jobs, in, you know, worrying about the future or being regretful of a past that we cannot change. In the middle of all of that is you, is me, focusing on living our lives from the inside out instead of from the outside in. So as we begin, I want to make it the practice of speaking, you know, of the vision statement, the mission statement of the Wake Up Project. This podcast has been created to give people of Black/African descent a venue where they can come to learn and to teach our people the importance of gaining and maintaining a strong cultural, spiritual, mental, physical, political, economic, and social consciousness and awareness and practice as individuals and as a people. The Wake Up Project will not focus on the problems and what is wrong, but more importantly on solutions and what we ourselves must do to make things right for our babies and for our collective future. The Wake Up Project will not play a part in promoting favoritism or blind allegiance to any narrow-minded, ideological, philosophical, and/or religious points of view. We are open to build with any and all who desire to contribute to a much-needed wake-up call to and for our people in the various Black neighborhoods spread out across these United States of America. Before I start, I just want to, right quick, I want to shout out a close friend of mine's, a good brother that I met about 2 or 3 months ago. The brother blessed me with a shirt for my birthday, which was on March 16th. Go Team Pisces in effect. Brother just blessed me with this Black Panther shirt for my birthday, and I just spent about a good hour and a half building with the brother, getting fired up for this show. This is for my brother Keith. He just blessed me for my birthday with that powerful shirt. I wish I would have had. I'm gonna wear it next show. And also, you know, I have this Marcus Garvey t-shirt on, you know, Universal Negro Improvement Association. Marcus Garvey with his challenge, up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. So let's go in. First, I want to ask you, family, the viewers, I want to tell you that I appreciate you first and foremost. We've been doing Facebook Live, you know, for the last 3-4 shows. This is like our 4th show. And you know, it's kind of hard at this point to really go in during the show to interact with the people who come on the Facebook Live, but I definitely want to say to you that I appreciate your positive energy. I appreciate your positive comments. And I thank you for, adding on your energy and your encouragement. As we move forward with this show and we begin to build, my goal is, for the last 4 shows, you've been seeing me up here by myself. But going into April, my plan is to start bringing in some of you who are interested in helping to expand this positive dialogue that we've been striving to create. Some of you, I want to build with you on air. Others, you might be able to help me to interact with the people who come through the Facebook Live, to make sure that in real time, any questions or comments that might come through the Facebook Live feed, we can address that during the show instead of me just having to, do my thank yous and interact with the family members who come through the Facebook Live after the show. So I ask you to help to spread this message through using your Facebook page and your contacts. You can begin to take this show and you can share it in the groups that you may be subscribed to on Facebook, amongst some of the friends that you have that you may feel this message will help to encourage them. You can tag them in it, share it, tag them in it. That would help us to build this platform and to expand the reach farther than just my Facebook and my connections, my friend list alone. So I definitely ask for and encourage you to do so. So I say, family, this is our moment. This is our time to shine. Our lives are not only our gift, but our lives are our opportunity to use our lives not to be disaffected by what has been and what is, but to be positively focused and directed through using our creative gifts, our skills and imagination to give birth to a new paradigm where we are not, again, focused on so much what the problems are, but we are focused on being part of what the solutions must be, through us feeding our own minds with knowledge, with wisdom, with understanding, with truth, with consciousness, with awareness, to give birth to a new reality. Gotta put my phone on mute. There's another friend who's been encouraging me to show these shirts and helping me to remain focused with being clear in my diction. And I definitely appreciate this friend as well. Family, I was making a huge mistake with my life when I first became conscious, say the summer of 1991 is when I first became conscious that there was a system that was put in place to keep us from living our best lives. And at the time, I was standing on the corner. And at the time, I thought that this is what black men do. We stand on the corner. What else were we supposed to do? And I've told some of this story before, but I'm going to go into a little bit more of it. This is when hip-hop helped me to gain connection to the life and times of, Malcolm X, and challenged me to let go of the corner and let go of the way that I was using my life to be a positive, to contribute to my community. And when I first woke up to the fact that there was a system that was put in place to rob us of our history and rob us of the ability to live our best life, I lived like the next 10, 15 years from a negative mindset and energy. And I was focused on all of the wrong things. I was wasting my life. I was wasting my opportunity by, either focusing on the system or focusing on, whoever else wasn't trying to get into control of their life. I spent a lot of time in anger. I spent a lot of time in judgment and ridicule. And a lot of times I was visiting this judgment and ridicule upon other people in the community. I had risen up and I was striving to create a community organization. And, people were coming out and joining on to the organization. And me, I was focused on the fact that, we need to be able to put pressure on the local politicians who may not be doing what they're supposed to be doing. We need to put pressure on the businesses in the community, to make them more responsible to the people who keep their doors open. And a lot of the people that I was engaging with, they hadn't yet taken the time to commit themselves to the life that I had committed myself to. And because I was looking at life from the outside in instead of looking at it from the inside out, I wasn't able to get into the most positive flow with my life that we're supposed to be able to get into. So, when you live your life from the outside in instead of from the inside out, you rob yourself of the power and the energy that you need to be able to claim the freedom that you may want. Looking at your life from the outside in instead of the inside out, there's a lot of us believing that we can't make any positive strides forward until the system changes, or we can't make any positive strides forward until our people wake up. And in the middle, again, between those two extremes is you. It's me. And we have to be able to walk out our faith, to use this life in the most positive way that we can, in the here and now, where we take it upon ourselves to say, I know that I am free. And the only thing that's holding me back is my fear to walk in that freedom. So you have a lot of people who are going along to get along with fads, with trends, with cliques. And they're not giving themselves the type of freedom that they need in order to bring forth and manifest their hopes and their dreams. So I say the fight is to make sure that you take ownership of your life. The fight is to make sure that you're living your best life and that you're not allowing life to dictate to you how you should be living. And I hope that you're following me. Instead of, there's some people who are not of that mindset. There are some people who are not ready to take the type of ownership and control over their lives that they need to take at this time and that we need them to take at this time. But the positive thing about that is that you don't need anyone to join on to your cause in order for you to get started. The main thing that you got to fight through in that beginning stage is that fear. The fear to be different. The fear sometimes that it takes for you to take positive ownership to do your own thing. You don't have to be present for every clique, every trend, every fad. You can begin to take your personal time to do what you need to do to bring value to your life. What are you talking about, Brother Mike? It starts from the bottom up. It starts with you and then it spreads to others. There was a lot of times when I was focused, I was out there. You know, I ran for the school board. I ran for the tenant association presidency. And I tried to pick up my community, to carry it, to bring it across the finish line. And in the process, I was losing myself. I wasn't taking care of my personal health. I wasn't building a positive momentum in my own life. So I was on a path to nowhere, even though I was doing a lot of great things in the community. The difference between now and then is I know that I can't show anybody anything that I haven't built up in my own life. The strength that I'm using to talk to you tonight is strength that I had to take the time to sow into myself, as opposed to staying stuck and hoping against hope that the system would change or the people outside, you know, in the communities would change and be willing to join on. So I promised someone I was going to mention briefly, you know, the march that happened yesterday. And I saw a lot of good energy. I saw some of our young sisters and brothers standing up and speaking positively. And that was good. But I also saw that on the flip side of looking at it, death by gun violence has been a big problem in the black neighborhoods across America for a long time. And this is a plight that we were suffering by ourselves for a very long time. In some of our communities, people are dropping like flies every day. I got family out there in Chicago. And I remember last year and coming into this year, you know, seeing numbers of like 45 people shot over the weekend, 50 people shot over the weekend. And there not being a march called, you know, to end gun violence. And this big unanimous call, which culminated in this march, that I'm glad that some of the people amongst our family joined on to say, what about us? Yeah, us too. I feel like what made this march big is when it starts happening in the white neighborhoods, it takes on a brand new meaning. And now something has to be done. It's just like some amongst us feel that when the crack epidemic hit the black and brown neighborhoods back in the 80s, a lot of the people who lived in those neighborhoods were looked upon as criminals and looked upon as savages. And, you know, the word crackhead became a trendy word to use. But now you have this so-called opioid crisis. And that crisis is not hitting, it's not, you know, centered in the black community as much as it's centered in the white community. And the way the people who are suffering under the opioid crisis, as opposed to the crack epidemic, they're looked upon as, you know, victims. You know, we got to help, you know, their fallen humanity. You know, we got to come together to help them, as opposed to labeling them, you know, with the same criminality brush that was labeled, that the people who suffered under the crack epidemic, you know, was labeled with. And some would say, yo, man, yo, forget that. At least now, you know, there's a march, there's a rally, you know, there's an outcry for us to end gun violence. But I have to say and point out that there's a disparity in the way our suffering is viewed and the way their suffering is viewed. So I gotta speak out on that. Things are not really gonna begin to change across the board until we are all looked upon. All of our humanity is sacred. Dr. King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And when you allow one corner of the rug to catch on fire and don't make any moves to put the fire out, the whole rug is in danger. Or when you leave the black communities to be unstable, with no real political leadership, no real religious leadership, no real opportunity for the people to learn how to go into business for themselves, to become strong politically and economically and socially so that we can fend for ourselves. Instead of just creating like safe corridors, you know, we know that the projects has no leadership. We know that there's, you know, and we're not trying to help them to learn how to help themselves. We just leave them in a messed up situation where they feel more and more disaffected and disenchanted. We're not going to worry about that. We're just going to try to keep the criminality that begins to flourish. We're going to try to keep it in and try, instead of trying to stop the criminality, we're going to try to make sure that the criminality just stays in these particular areas. But what Dr. King talked about when he said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, it has shown and proven that allowing things like that to happen, eventually it begins to seep out and it begins to affect everyone. So we gotta get it together. So tonight, I want to talk about briefly. Last show, I talked about this figure called Willie Lynch. And Willie Lynch was supposed to have been, and there's, you know, the jury is out on that. Some people swear up and down that there was a figure at one point in time named Willie Lynch. And some people believe that this is like one of those made up characters, that somebody made up this story to try to light a fire under, you know, the black community. It reminds me of this letter, you know, this was another one. I'll try to find that one. Somebody found this letter on the bed of this some brother in prison, and it was a letter written by a Ku Klux Klan member thanking, you know, people in the black community for selling drugs to one another, from picking up guns and forming gangs and gang banging on one another. And there was this letter, you know, that this Ku Klux Klan member supposedly wrote. And a lot of people say, you know, there was no such letter, but the letter, there was so much truth in the letter that whether the letter was real or was fake, it was still a call to action. So some people view the Willie Lynch letter in the same vein. And before taking too much time, I'm going to read the letter. And at any time, if you have any questions or comments, you know, please join in. So this letter was supposedly written by a slave master who, you know, came from, you know, like the islands, the Virgin Islands, you know, in Jamaica and what have you. Because for those of you who know anything about the story of the slave trade, the finding of the so-called New World, and the slave trade that began to emerge in this part of the world as the main proponents, England, France, and Spain, fought for to colonize and conquer the world. Slavery that later took hold in what became America, it came later on. It started in places like that became the Dominican Republic, in Haiti, in Jamaica, in, you know, places like that. So this story is of this guy Willie Lynch, who comes to America to address, he was brought like in a convention, so to speak, to address the issue of slavery and to teach the plantation owners how to enslave the population better. It goes, gentlemen, I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. White Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its old highways in great numbers. You are here using the tree and the rope on occasion. I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple of miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings, slaves are running away, your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long. For maximum profit, you suffer occasional fires, your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. However, I am here to introduce you to methods of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. So 300 years from 1712 takes us up to the year 2012, the times that we're living in right now. So he guaranteed them if they introduced this method of control at that time in 1712, that it would last at least up to 2012. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it is there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantations, status on plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley, on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks, but it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They may love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensively for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. And I read that, and I say, whether, you know, this letter, this figure, Willie Lynch, and this letter that I just read to you, whether it's real or it's not, it helps to shine light on the overall, methodology that was instituted. And it also speaks to a lot of the division, that we still see going on in our communities today. To where some of us, we say things such as, black people are the only race on this planet that can't get together. Black people are the only race on this planet that can't do this and can't do that and can't do the other thing. And without having knowledge of the methodology that I just read to you, that led to this extreme level of division, that is, that's passed on from generation to generation. If you had no idea, and a lot of us have had no idea, that there was a system of control that was instituted to keep us from being able to reunify, to rediscover who we've been, what was done to us, and to begin to, in the light of that truth and knowledge, begin to not participate in that system of division anymore. So it's not good enough just to say that black people are the only race that can't do this and the only race who can't do that. Because some people feel that by saying that somehow they've did their part. Me pointing out that that's a problem, I've did my part. But we have to take it further than that. And not only point out that there's a problem here, but we have to challenge ourselves to become part of the solution. Because if we just, like I said, stay stuck within the declaration that we're the only people who can't come together, then that puts the blame for that reality of us not being able to come together. It puts the blame of that reality on us. And it takes the blame of that reality off of the system. And not only the system, but the people who created the system to divide us, to keep us in a state of slavery. And even after slavery was over, we were never put through a process of helping us to regain our humanity so that we can take ownership over our lives and take ownership over that freedom that was taken from us. There's another book, and I challenge you to get this book yourself. It's called The Willie Lynch Letter. And I know I'm looking at the screen. You might not be able to see this, but I guarantee you, you can Google this. The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave. And, I just read you the Willie Lynch letter part, but there was a whole second half, to this booklet that talks about the instilling of fear and traumatization that went on back in slavery times. That even though slavery times have, been over for 160 years now, the trauma that was created has gone unaddressed and is still being passed on from generation to generation to generation. And it will continue to be passed on from generation. Like it said, he said in the letter, if you institute this methodology, it will continue for at least the next 300 years. And that was 2012. And it's now 2018. And I don't see any signs. Well, I can't really say I don't see any signs. But I still see a lot of the pain, the suffering, the division going on. There's still a cold war and sometimes hot war going on between black men and black women, or black fathers and black mothers. There's still a cold and sometimes hot war going on between the elders of the community, of the civil rights generation, and the young people coming up behind them, where there's a disconnect going on. And a lot of times where we haven't seen a whole lot of energy being put forward towards the necessary healing that needs to happen in the communities. So what happens is, it's like, instead of us trying to get to the root of what our problems are, we settle for, like I said in the last show, a whining, a griping, a complaining, a protesting for better outside treatment, instead of trying to focus on, well, how do I take ownership of my life? How do I get out of the waiting for something to happen outside of myself? And how do I get into the driver's seat of bringing forth my best person? The system, as I've read to you, depicted through this letter, the Willie Lynch letter, the system has basically robbed us, millions of us, over the years, over the decades, over the centuries since this country was created. The system has robbed us of the ability to take positive ownership over our lives and to make positive usage over our lives. I just mentioned how I had a birthday a week and a half ago. And I'm almost 50 years old at this point. Yeah, I know I look young and sound young, and I'm not an old man yet. But you know what's crazy is I'm almost 50 years old. And I'm just now coming into a freedom and positive ownership over my life that should have been mine since birth. I'm just now coming into a freedom and positive ownership over my life that should have been mine since birth. Other communities, they are free from the moment they come out of their mother's womb. They come into a community a lot of times where there's structure, where there's love, you know, where the community is stable and they're able to take advantage of their unity, of their togetherness, for them to be politically strong, where they can advocate for policies within this American system on a local level, on a city level, on a state and federal level. They're able to use the power of their unity, of their cohesiveness, to build a community that is safe, that is secure. But in the black community, that ability doesn't exist. You're taught almost from the time that you're born that you've done nothing of any quality historically, that you were once slaves, that you are a minority, that you are a second-class citizen, and that the only way that you can get some type of benefit or relief from the conditions and the conditioning that's going on in the inner city, ghetto, project, neighborhoods, is you gotta protest for it. You don't have it within yourself to live your life as you would, to live your best possible life. A lot of us, from, the time that we can speak, we see ourselves again. We see ourselves as N-words. We see ourselves as the B word. And a lot of times, more often than not, we're trying to go along to get along, to fit ourselves into somebody else's plan. To the point where I was talking with my brother a little while ago. to the point where even when you have a little bit of, you know, a belief in yourself and say, you know, I'm gonna do the best job to get my life together that I can. I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna get a degree. A lot of times we pursue these efforts not with the belief in ourselves that we can be a powerful and autonomous people who can work our own lives out and work our own communities out. But a lot of times you'll go to school because you're hoping that this degree will give you an opportunity to be selected to be a part of this corporation or that job over there. And a lot of times now, as you see the economy shrinking, and you see more and more people who have lived their entire lives trying to set themselves up to take advantage of something that doesn't even exist anymore. I know a lot of people personally that have gone to school and have college degrees, and they're working entry-level positions. Because either the corporation that they was dependent upon getting hired within with their degree, either a lot of these corporations have dissolved, or they just, you know, look over them. It could be someone from another racial, ethnic persuasion, sometimes that doesn't even have the qualifications, the degree that that person has fought for, that they pick over them. Okay. I don't want this to, you know, sometimes you have to talk about the problem. There's a phone call? All right. Peace. Peace and elevation. Come through. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Peace. My name is Ella. I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Hey, peace. Peace, family. I appreciate, let me first foremost say I appreciate you for your ongoing, you know, support and calling in to add energy on. And I particularly appreciate you right now for calling in to add some positive energy, because quite honestly,
it's feeling.
Yeah, the devil's a liar. You know, my energy was my energy was much higher this afternoon in preparation for this show. And even as I was on my way driving over, my energy was much higher. And I don't know exactly what happened to my energy, but it's not as high. It's not as high as it was. and so you calling in prayerfully with some energy to help your brother out is definitely appreciated at this moment.
Wow, you know, and it's interesting that you're saying that, because the feel is gloomy. You know, it's gloomy because of what we're talking about. You know, and it brings on a feeling of sadness. You know, I was watching, you know, watching it on Facebook, and I see so many sad faces going up. You know, so when we talk about certain things, it definitely pulls that energy on, and that's not going to leave you in the place where you started, because it's taking you to, you know, what you're talking about. It brings on that sadness, you know, to think about people purposely, you know, setting up a whole people for a downfall, you know. So it's definitely a sad topic that we're talking about here right now. But it's a couple of things that you said when you said, you know, about your age and where you just started to realize, you know, to kind of take back your life, or you know, about being robbed. You know, I feel that at the same time that we're robbed, you know, the other communities, the other people, other races who didn't necessarily have that happen to their ancestors, or even it's not happening to them now. We're all being robbed. We're all being robbed, because for us to be manipulated and put in a certain place, they're being manipulated also. They're being manipulated. If a child is born and taught that they're better than someone else, that if they have any type of time in their life where they sit and they think about, and they think in a human way, in a way that is of love, because all of us have it, most people have it. They would say, well, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't sound right. And then they have, you know, certain things that just rams it into their head where it becomes a belief that goes beyond what they really truly believe deep inside. That's robbery. That's robbery for a child to be playing with another child and being told that you don't play with that little girl because she's dark and she's dirty and she's this and that. That's robbery. So we're all being robbed. You know, everyone is being robbed by these so-called principles or whatever it is that these people created in order to keep other people down. Everybody is getting robbed.
That's right.
When it comes to that. And we can't take away, you know, the power that our ancestors had to choose, and also the power that we have to choose. I was talking to someone the other day about, you know, it's only but so long you could blame your mother for what she did or how she raised you. You know, because when you realize that you're the way you are because of what your mother did, that at that very moment you are empowered to make a difference, to change.
Could you keep this one on and open up the next? All right, hold on for a second, sis. Do you have another call?
Right.
Don't hang up.
Okay.
Hey, peace and elevation. Welcome to the Wake Up Project with Brother Mike X. Please state your name and where you're calling from and tell us what's on your mind. All right, we lost them. I'm coming up to 12 minutes. The time flies. So I want you to finish your thought, though, sis, because you said a lot of important things. And not only did you say a lot of important things, but you brought some fresh air and some fresh energy, you know. You saw your brother struggling to try to get through this depressing situation. Hold on one second. Let's bring them on.
Okay.
Peace and elevation. Please let us know who this is calling in and where you're calling from and what do you want to contribute to the discussion.
Hi, good evening, Brother Mike. This is Victoria from Patterson, New Jersey.
Hey, what's up, sis? How you?
Well, I'm blessed and I'm wonderful. Was just watching you live and to hear a brother who I see gives so much of himself have the courage to say my spirit was low. I just wanted to call in to encourage you. And tell you I love what you do. I'm a big fan of what you do, and I'm a benefactor. I benefit from what you do. Wow. I take the wisdom that you share with the people, and I implement it in my community. You know, when we speak of repair, when we speak of reparations, you know, nothing of that is going to come outside from anybody else. There's an African proverb. It says, the ruin of a nation begins in the home. Let's take the focus off of them and place the onus back on us.
That's right.
We understand the game. We know it's rigged. We understand cards that are stacked against us. The same traps that are out there for you and I, for them, they're out there for you and I. What's the difference? What's making the difference in our lives? Choice.
That's right.
And we got to come and start making better choices. I have been my greatest victimizer because I allowed myself to be victimized by a system. And I can identify with you saying, because I'll be 50 in July, and I just come to realize my power. And I've just come to reclaim it and take it back.
That's right.
Because my life has not been my own. It's been dictated by a system. An immoral system that I have allowed for years to tell me what's righteous and what's not. So when you start walking in your inalienable rights, When you start walking in the fullness of the God in you, you go in Sankofa mode. You go back and get it, because I realized how depowered I've been. Relied on anything. I was furious. Case in point, my brother whose daughter was just murdered by the boyfriend and the mother. I was furious over the fact that the brother, to me, and this is my personal opinion, did not do enough to save his child's life. You made a phone call to a system that has proved they don't care about us. And you waited for somebody to do their job. When did we surrender our rights to our lives? When did we place our lives in this system's hands to the point where we're so ineffective that we can't show up for not only ourselves, but our seeds? Because, see, the times to make these phone calls have ceased. You got to show up for yourself. You got to turn off that TV. You got to disconnect from the madness. And you got to get so deep in yourself that you see the role you play in your own demise, and then you have to begin to take the steps to fix it.
That's right.
Because it's no joke. In my community, there's nothing but low-grade, contaminated food. I have to venture out into other communities. And I doubt that they got organic food there too, because I'm beginning to realize even that's a scam.
Hey, Sister V, let me say this right quick. I definitely appreciate you coming on. I'm hoping, maybe we're trying to build a nucleus is one of the things I want to build, especially here in the tri-state area. I kind of feel like social media has blessed us with the opportunity for us to connect the way we have connected. And the encouragement and the appreciation that you expressed for me a couple of minutes ago, I express it back to you, and I thank you. And I feel like at this point in time, those of us who may have been introduced through social media, but live close enough physically to where we can come together and begin to enjoy each other's company of encouragement, of love, of appreciation and respect, not just for each other, but from the higher power that has given us the opportunity to survive through many of the travails that you mentioned. I'm hoping that we can move towards that in the very near future. My time is running short, and I struggle with this each and every show. I don't want to cut you off. I still got, Sister Pamela Ella on the phone. Pam Ella. I hope you don't. Yeah. I hope you don't mind me blowing up your government, sis.
Nah, it's all good.
so I got about 7 minutes left in which, to thank you for coming through and to try to wrap up this show and leave on a positive note. And I definitely thank each one of you for helping to elevate the show itself, if not just my spirits, because I was really struggling dealing with this history, So moving forward into April, we're going to be striving, I say this out loud, we're going to be striving to elevate the Wake Up Project with Brother Mike X from a 1-hour show to a 2-hour show, to where we can spend a little bit more time giving each and every person who wants to come through to share what's on their minds and to ask whatever questions that they have and to share what's on their minds, a little bit more time to speak and flesh out their thoughts and not feel so rushed. But having said that, Sister Ella, do you have anything that you want to conclude with briefly? Now I'm down to 5 minutes and 50-something seconds. I'm looking at the clock.
Yes. I'm with the sister. Like, that's where I was going. I was going with choice. Yeah. I was going with choice. I was going that now it's not about blaming anyone anymore. Once you realize while you're in the position that you're in, it's time for you to take full 100+% control of your situation. I was going the same place where she went, so she just continued my thoughts for me.
Say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
Yes, it is our choice. We have it. We have the power. So we're all on point right now. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Sister V. I'm gonna use the last 5 minutes to wrap up, and sis, if I can connect with you in any way, you know, in the near future, we can get together and share the positive energy that each one of us is striving to overflow through our own lives into the community and into the projects, you know, that it has been placed upon our hearts to minister to. You know, I say, please just give me a call, or let's try to move into that, bringing that into reality. You know, you're only, I don't know exactly where you're at, but the George Washington Bridge is not too far from me, and I've been blessed to be to have a car and a willingness to drive wherever I need to be.
20 minutes from the George Washington Bridge. 20 minutes from the George Washington Bridge, okay, brother. We neighbors.
Most definitely, and we need to take advantage of that, you know. And I say the same thing to anybody else who is in the Facebook Live or on the YouTube Live. We need to begin to take ownership of our lives as individuals. And as we take ownership of our lives as individuals and we begin to feed ourselves the right foods, we begin to exercise the way we need to exercise, we begin to whip these body temples, you know, in which the Spirit of the Most High has put a small droplet of that infinite power of creation into our lives. We can begin to bring back a strongness of health, a vitality, of physical health. We begin to turn the TV off like our sister just advised us to, so that we can get into the books and listen to the DVDs. And also, we can also build in a positive way like we're doing tonight on this venue. You know, we begin to get our minds right. As we get our minds right, then we can take positive ownership over choice. Like both of the sisters mentioned tonight, that choice is our #1 power. The only thing is that they strive to rob us of a knowledge of ourselves, a knowledge of the truth, so that when we choose, when we use our power of choice, we use our power of choice to feed the flesh instead of to feed the spirit, to feed the lower qualities, the lower vibrations that are inherent in the flesh. A lot of times is where we make our choices from, instead of up here in our hearts and our minds, where the power of spirit, where the power of love and compassion, you know, exist. You know, we need to be able to use the power of choice from up here instead of down here. You know what I mean? So, you know, I say we're going to continue with this. A lot of times I'm not even really able, and like I said, you know, moving forward, I can see us having studio guests. I can see us doing a lot of different things. I ask you to look upon this and take a vested interest in this. You know, like the two sisters tonight showed, you know, they didn't let your brother, they saw your brother struggling and they came through on the rescue, you know, and I really appreciate that. And I really want you to take advantage of this show and really work to put that time in. You know, put that time into your life to become who you need to be. We ain't hating over here. I want to see you. I want you to come in the fullness of everything that you have to offer as a brother. I want you to begin to work to find your positive skills and gifts and your purpose. I want you to do that, because only then can you encourage me to stay on the task and stay on task the way I'm striving to be, you know? So we need to be able to do that. I ask you to connect with me through BruthaMikeXSpeaks on YouTube, and you can see it under right here in these fancy graphics. You know, connect with me on Instagram, BruthaMikeX on Instagram. Connect with me on YouTube, BruthaMikeX on YouTube. And on Facebook, they made me change my name, and they made me put my government up there. It used to be BruthaMikeX, BruthaMikeX. Now they got it, Michael X Hinton. You can connect with me. I believe even if you press Brother Mike X, it'll still bring you to my page, you know. And I also ask you to share this message, you know, with your friends, on your friends list, so that we can expand, you know, our reach. That offensive beep that you hear right now that just came through is the end of the show, technically. Sister Ella, you still there? Okay, somebody's still there. I say thank you for hanging out with me. And put yourself first, family. Let me just do this, and I don't want to violate my time here at the studio, but I do want to say we have to begin to imagine and view life and move forward within the context of this question. What would you do with your life if you didn't believe in your oppression? If you didn't believe in your inferiority? If you didn't believe in your dependence on others? What would you do with your life? A lot of us have hopes and dreams, but a lot of us hide our hopes and dreams because we've bought into this going along to get along, you know, thing. A lot of us don't believe in ourselves. Even though we are a great and powerful people, a lot of us don't believe in ourselves. So what would you do with your life if you didn't believe in your oppression? And you can show me better than you can tell me. So I challenge you to do that. So having said that, I thank you for tuning in. This is a labor of love. And it's a hard thing, man, to step out from the sidelines, man, and to stand out front and command attention, call attention to yourself in a positive way. A lot of times there's so much negativity in the neighborhood that if you focus on the negativity, everybody will get down with the negativity because that's what they're used to. But in an insane world, a corrupt, hate-filled world, when you step away from the sidelines and you start to talk about love and healing and unity, a lot of times you find yourself by yourself, you know. So thank you for coming through and hanging out with your brother this evening. I say peace and elevation to you. Till next week.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We jamming? Hell yeah, we jamming. InTheMixRadio.com.